It was the dawn of a new year, 2019, and at this point in time, JERMA's chat still hadn't figured out whether he was guilty of psychopathic crimes including homicide and vehicular violence or not. 1 month later, on a cold February afternoon, chat tuned into JERMA's stream to find that he was about to take a multi-week voyage in a hot air balloon.
Today's the day that we're gonna actually fly.
Starting in Boston, Massachusetts, and ending in his new hometown, Las Vegas, Nevada. But for now, he's still in Boston, showing chat the various supplies that he's brought along for the trip. He pulls them out of the bag one by one.
I need some snacks.
And they include a loaf of bread, a box of biscuits, and a gallon of water. But there's also something else in the bag, an unknown fourth item, which chat is unable to identify as it's obscured by the bag.
You guys ready for Vegas?
We're ready. This is safe to take to Vegas, right?
Sure, absolutely. It's a long ways away, but we can do it.
Like 17 or 18 days is what I was told.
The stream came to a close as the operator confirmed that the trip will take around 17 to 18 days, which you might have realized is far too long considering the small amount of rations that Jeremy has brought with him. Not to mention the fact that none of the other 5 passengers brought any food or water with them, which leads me to suggest that maybe they didn't realize that they were going on a multi-week voyage, not until the driver said so, and possibly only really signed up for a few minutes of flying in the air. And for anyone wanting to claim that they might have been fake or paid actors, frankly, whether or not they were paid to be there, we can clearly see Jeremy boarding a hot air balloon for a multi-week voyage with just a few scraps of food and a gallon of water. This brings us to the second stream. The balloon draws near in the sky, and chat begins to pick up something strange. The color pattern on the balloon appears to be slightly different from the original balloon seen flying away from Boston. Now, if you look closely, the balloon that we originally saw departing was yellow at the top, then orange, then red, and finally blue at the bottom, compared to the new balloon, which was now blue, yellow, orange, yellow, blue. Very different. Sincerely, the only explanation I could come up with was that the balloon had been detached at some point and replaced, definitely not in mid-flight, so there would have been some lands, maybe for fuel and things like that, which, now I'm thinking about it, might have been where they would go to get the food, but this isn't something that Jeremy brings up or factors into the equation. It seems to me that even though he could have gotten food, he for some reason decided to survive using only the small amount of rations that he brought with him. Then, 52 seconds into the stream, the camera cuts to a close shot of Jeremy, where you can now see that there are only 2 passengers in the balloon compared to the 6 prior. At this point, Chad has stopped worrying about the color scheme and are far more concerned about the likelihood that Jeremy has eaten the other passengers, a theory which he would later deny adamantly. At this point, Jeremy's proven himself guilty. The amount of evidence Chad has gathered over the last 2 streams has been paramount, enough to warrant a psychological evaluation at minimum, or more drastically, a rigorous investigation into the happenings of the deadly balloon ride. It's for this very reason that I'd like you to pay extremely close attention to the first ever words we hear from Jeremy as he steps out of the balloon.
I'm never doing that ever again. I'll never do it again.
Considering that this is the first thing he says, and he says it twice, the sentence is likely to be key to solving this entire mystery. It both proves his guilt, while also obfuscating the question of intent by showing clear remorse for his actions.
That was the worst thing I've ever done in my life.
This is where the questions start to pile up. What did Jeremy do on that balloon? How could it be worse than everything he's ever done in his life? And subsequently, what has he done in his life? The statement implies a comparison between multiple different wrongdoings, which implies at least 2, maybe even 3 situations.
I ran out of food in the first 2 hours.
This is where the allegations turn from mass homicide to mass cannibalism.
My God.
Jeremy pleads with a higher power to lessen his fate, hinting towards his fears of eternal damnation.
I have had a hellish week.
This further reinforces the themes of hell, as Jeremy bargains whether or not he will spend the rest of eternity in that very place. He begins to make his case to the stream, explaining that he had had a mix-up with everything from sky bandits to cowboys with Pegasus wings and lassos.
First of all, I didn't even know it was like the Wild West out there. How was I supposed to know that? I didn't know it was like GTA up there. They're bandits.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of
Jeremy retorts about the Elvis impersonator who is there to greet him when he lands, which might seem like an insignificant detail, but it gives us our first real defense of Jeremy Albertson. The fact that he planned for an Elvis impersonator to greet him when he lands, not to mention the fact that the stream was also live at that same occasion, also most likely planned by Jeremy. This clearly shows that Jeremy had no intention of committing violent acts on the balloon ride, and instead planned for a smooth journey with a joyous celebration at the end. This lack of composure after the incident and inability to conceal his true feelings about what has just happened plays a pivotal role in Jeremy's defense, clearly portraying him as someone with an overwhelmingly strong moral compass, as opposed to a flawed one. This suggests he would have been pushed far in order to commit those crimes and wouldn't have done it on his own volition.
There was a man that I met. We became really close friends.
and I'm just a devil with a love to spare. So
Hear him fall out of the balloon.
Viva Las Vegas.
I had to transfer. I had to get rescued by two other balloons.
The man Jeremy's referring to here is a scientist by the name of Bob Anderson. But before he can explain what he's talking about, he goes on another excuse-filled rant, making claims such as there are no laws in the sky, it's like when you go in a cruise ship, or it's like GTA, but in the sky, which is absolutely incorrect in the worst ways possible. The law still applies in the sky. You're floating above different jurisdictions, and while there will be some complications when figuring out which state you're going to be prosecuted under, it will eventually happen.
You guys know when you go on a cruise ship, and the cruise ship goes around, and you get to the certain waters where you can play casino games? There's no laws up there. And when you get to 5,000 feet in the air, there's no laws anymore. Bandits. I'll never forget Bob Anderson was his name. We said that if we were going to make it together, we were going to become close friends. He was a scientist. He told me his entire life story. We said we were going to get to the top of Mount Cheyenne, and we were going to scream together at the same time when we got down.
Clearly, him and Jeremy were close. And frankly, if I see any haters in the chat saying that Jeremy deliberately killed Bob Anderson, these people spent 17 to 18 days together. They were extremely close. And if I know one thing, it's that Jeremy would have done everything he could to save Bob Anderson's life. Do you think the average person would send out 2 hot air balloons to try and rescue someone? Granted, no sane person would ever attempt such a maneuver. The speed at which Bob Anderson would have fallen would have been much faster than any balloon could ever descend. But this just further illustrates my point. The death of Bob Anderson was certainly due to some fault in Jeremy's brain, don't get me wrong. But morally, judicially, it wasn't Jeremy's fault. Jeremy sits down at his new desk in Las Vegas, Nevada, takes a sip of water and checks the date.
What's today? It's been 2.5 weeks? Wait, when did I leave? When did I leave?
It's been 2.5 weeks, he exclaims. He's astounded when met with the knowledge that the 17 to 18 day trip, which he'd been informed about prior, took exactly 2.5 weeks, which if you didn't know is 16 to 17 days, which is extremely close to the estimate he'd been given. And this to me suggests a severe cognitive decline, which could prove convenient for either party in this case. On one hand, the prosecution could argue that his mental state declined as a result of the intense trauma of consuming 3 people. However, the defense might bring up the well-known fact that a human being can survive at least 2 to 3 months with no food. Granted, they do need water, and though Jeremy brought a small amount of water, if those people all perished before the water ran out, this is a possible explanation. What happened next must have been nothing other than pure devastation for the Albertson defense lawyers. After taking a sip of water, Jeremy puts on the BRB stream, and while an innocent person in the situation might grab a light snack to build up their food tolerance or maybe take another sip of water, Jeremy decides to shave his beard on stream. This is not only excessively narcissistic, but additionally it raises questions about how Jeremy is so carefree after spending 2.5 weeks with no food or water. First of all, this puts to die the idea that Jeremy's morality would prevent him from devouring the corpses of his fellow passengers. Clearly this man is satiated. He has no intention of eating food any sooner than brunch time. And second of all, his concerning lack of thirst or rehydration seems to point to the possibility that he was not only cannibalizing them, but also drinking their blood like a vampire. Jeremy comes back to the stream with a shaving cream beard and brandishes a butter knife, telling his stream, "Gotta shave." And as he scrapes away the foam with the butter knife, it becomes quickly apparent that he shaved already. He was just applying cream so he could scrape it off and provide the illusion of shaving in front of chat as some kind of sick, twisted comedy routine. Now, as the shaving comes to a close, Jeremy proudly proclaims, "And you said I couldn't shave with a butter knife?" But before he can finish his sentence, he chokes up, and we begin to see some signs of physical trauma, which he might have endured on the trip.
I can't have any fun. I haven't been having any fun for a long time. I just had fun and it hurt my whole body.
Remembering this sends him into a spiral of tears. He begins to retell his experience on the balloon.
You've no idea what I've been through up there. I've had to fight people. I fought off 3 different people that were trying to commandeer my balloon.
And the moment he decides to share is that of a great fight breaking out on the balloon. Now, he doesn't explain whether these people were supposed to be the other passengers fighting him or maybe some kind of sky pirate like he's suggested earlier, but we're going to go ahead and say it was the other passengers, which actually provides the closest thing to a confession that we have so far, seeing as we now have reason to believe that at least 3 of the passengers could have potentially been either injured or killed, providing a perfect opportunity for Jeremy to eat them. I'm also going to go ahead and assume that one of these 3 people wasn't Bob Anderson, the scientist. Now, once again, if anyone's trying to tell me that Bob Anderson would have fought Jeremy, tried to commandeer his adventure to Las Vegas, I'll be extremely upset. The more likely scenario is that Bob Anderson was on Jeremy's side, and so is the driver. So that gives us 3 people versus 3 people.
Where'd my shaving utensil go?
Clearly, Jerma's chat was picking up the same clues as I am, because one guy asks Jerma if he ate the other passengers, and Jerma obviously reads this one specific chat message. Actually, kind of the whole chat was saying it at this point. It started, as you know, with this one person suspecting it at the beginning of the stream. That person going under the name of DeadlyFFish_, saying specifically he ate the others. I just like to shout out to this person because I think that they started the entire interrogation process, and they are the reason why we have these brilliant moments here to discuss and investigate.
Did I eat the other passengers? Of course not. What do you think? I'm insane? You think there's something wrong with me? Nobody said that. Nobody said that. What do you mean nobody said that?
Jeremy looks over at himself in the OBS preview with a look of panic in his eyes. In this moment, he thinks that he made up that message, hallucinated it in the chat because of the trauma that's on his mind of eating those people. Chat picks up on this as well and pushes him further, saying, no, there was nobody in the chat saying that. Nobody said that.
Pre-recorded, no one said what? That I've been eating people? Let me be on the record here right now. You can get this as recorded as you want. Dab or I'm not dabbing. I could never eat someone. Ever. I find it disgusting. I find it absolutely abhorrent. Like, I would never even attempt it. Not one, you'd never catch me. I wouldn't be the guy doing it. I wouldn't be the first guy to raise his hand. Not me.
This affirmative ritual seems to have lightened Jeremy's spirits, because as he completes the shave and wipes down his neck, he lets out a burst of energy with a triumphant woot. Chat obviously calls him insane, and in anger, he forgets to put his guard up.
He's gone insane. I'm perfectly healthy. I got plenty of nutrients from all the...
This is about as close to a confession as we could ever expect from an egomaniac such as Jeremy. He wouldn't admit to it directly, but maybe he would give some kind of Freudian slip which would give us a glance into his psyche. As the sentence goes on, he trails off, but it's too late. Chad is now convinced of his crimes, and there's no way he can win back their approval anymore.
From all the things that I've consumed.
Jeremy ends the sentence by referring to those people as things. This is obviously him bargaining with his own morality. He can't call them food, but he also can't call them people because then chat is going to know that he ate people. So he settles for things, which is also equally as dehumanizing, but seems to be more palatable for Jeremy.
What happened to the people? Look, I'm just gonna go ahead and say, I do not want to relive any of the things that happened over the last 2 weeks.
Jeremy can't answer a simple question. Chat just wants to know what happened to the victims and their bodies, and all Jeremy can think about is managing the guilt that he feels about what happened.
I'm burying it. I've got a surveying team digging away in the center of my brain, and that's where it's gonna go forever. You're never going to see it again. I'm never going to hear about it. It's going to be just gone forever. So you'll never hear a story. You're not going to hear anything about what happened to on those ships. Because that's what they are. They're just ships shaped like fucking balloons.
And as you're about to hear, most of that guilt isn't even about eating the passengers. It's about Bob Anderson. He regrets what happened to Bob, and that emotion seems to take over all other rationality. But before that, he has to go on a rant about sky pirates again.
This is like fucking pirates and bandits. They haven't gone forward in time up there. Where's the gold? I don't have any fucking gold, man. What are you talking about? I'm just trying to travel to Vegas. They're trying to get me to walk the plank. They put a plank out. They got a sword on my back, and it's like I had to spin around and do like a spinning twist kick and knock the sword out and kick the guy over. Couldn't even make this up if I wanted to. It sounds very stressful. It was. Some of it was great. I can't even. I told you I wanted to bury it. Bob Anderson. I'll never forget him. I called him Bob Steel Anderson because, man, could he handle everything under pressure. When I thought the worst was going to happen, when I was at my lowest, Bob Anderson was there to tell me, to coach me through it. He was a great, great man, and I'll never forget him.
In conclusion, the case we built against Jeremy is overwhelming, but it lacks something fundamental. Unless backed up by some kind of evidence, such as the fourth item in that bag, potentially the murder weapon, or if that's not possible, then at the very least a psychological evaluation proving that he's capable of his murders, and also a rigorous testimony discrepancy analysis proving that he's lying about the story and covering up certain details. But at the end of the day, the prosecution is doomed to fail, and Jeremy will most likely be a free man once again. Once this is all said and done, he'll be walking the streets like the rest of us, and one can only hope that when the time is right, he'll make another mistake like this, and this time we'll have evidence. Thanks for watching. I've been Sadie. Goodbye.